being able to network is one of the most important career skills that you have because getting mentors, getting people to be your cheerleaders and move into new positions, it's really all based on those soft skills, that ability to connect with people and to form relationships, and that makes a big difference.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to Career Hack, a podcast dedicated to assisting college students and early career professionals with entering the workforce and ascending the corporate ladder. I'm Brandon Amoroso, co-founder of Apex, a scaleless company that sends 30 plus internships a day to college students that are searching for opportunities. Today I'm talking with Amanda Chamberlain, who's the Associate Director of Career Services at Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, which I hope I got that
Yep,
pronunciation right.
you got it.
Um, Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Brandon.
So before we dive into things, can you give everybody just a background on yourself?
Sure, I'd love to. So, I am a career counselor. I have my degree, my MS in counseling from San Francisco State University. And after I got my degree there, I worked in California in a variety of different places, San Francisco State and Diablo Valley College and Mills College. So, higher education is my thing. I really enjoy working with students. And I moved here in North Carolina and I worked at Schema Business School, which is an international business school based in France. So I worked there for 4 years, and now recently I've moved to Fuqua to work with the Master of Management Studies program, which is a 1 year program for usually students have very limited experience. Either they're coming right out of undergraduate or they've worked a few years. So it's a younger population, and I really enjoy it.
What do you think has changed the most over your career in terms of how, like the transition from college to the workforce? Has it gotten harder? Has it gotten easier? What are some of the differences that you see, both good and bad?
Okay, so when I was finishing my graduate degree, it was a tough season. This is back longer than I'm willing to admit, but it was a very tough economy. And I think over time, all I've seen are, big shifts. We have highs and we have lows. And what's changed the most over my career is the way technology has impacted how people find jobs. Although, to be honest, um, networking has been consistent throughout. So whether you network through LinkedIn or in person, that's that's definitely something that has not changed. So, but the technology and the way we do the job searching has changed somewhat.
And do you think that the current like technology landscape, um, are there like gaps or opportunities there, or how has that helped better facilitate, the transition from college into the workforce?
I think from my perspective, technology can be a way to make the job search more effective and save time. And what I've noticed with my students is because they're in a competitive graduate program, they don't have a lot of time to dedicate to the job search. So using tools, especially AI tools, can really help them to be more effective and to figure out like how they want to approach their resume, preparation for interviews, whatnot. I am a big early adopter of ChatGPT, Brandon. I love it. I use it. I use it with my students, and I encourage them to take full advantage of it. Um, so that is a tool that has really been a game changer. And I also am a big believer in LinkedIn. So when LinkedIn started, that was another tool that I feel like made networking much more of a possibility for students. So some of those tools I think can really definitely make a big difference if students take advantage of them.
Yeah, I think the thing that we've been working through on our end is how to sort of separate out quality over quantity. Just to your point of LinkedIn, I remember when I was looking for a job or trying to reach out to folks during school, there's so much noise now
Mhm.
because of how much adoption LinkedIn has that it can be hard to stand out amongst a sea of people who, are all equipped with the same tools and technologies that you have at your disposal. So what are some of the things that, you encourage your students to do to stand out and that you've seen work well?
Yeah, I agree with you. Quality is more important, and I don't think that students understand that very much. So really encourage a personalized approach, right? It's not enough to just copy and paste a million LinkedIn messages and cross your fingers and hope for the best. I think it's really important to understand who your potential advocates could be. And, for my students, their MMS and Fuqua graduate alumni are an awesome place for them to start. But what's really important is that it's not perceived as, I just want something from you, right? I want the referral. I want something from you. And that approach is, that's very easy for an alum to ignore. So I think what's even more valuable is to really dig in to the alum's profile and learn as much about them as you can and identify, here are the points of overlap we have, the points of connection, and to focus on those points of connection and to use that in your messaging. I think that does make a difference because it's not perceived as gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah, I agree. I went the handwritten note route with a few folks, uh, and those worked very well because especially when you're getting, hundreds of LinkedIn messages, if you get a handwritten note from somebody, at the very least, you're inclined to do a 15-minute call with them, just because of the effort that went into the outreach.
Absolutely. I think anything that can help you stand out is definitely to your advantage. And what I'm hearing from students lately is that email has given them a better response rate than LinkedIn. So, but I think LinkedIn still, the information is there on LinkedIn and how you choose to move forward with it for networking. That's a different thing. But the email right now has been a better, it gets a better return. So that's something that is kind of new to me. I still will use LinkedIn, but I think you have to do some A/B testing, right, to see what's going to work best for you, and also the age of the people that you're communicating with. So some people are old school and they may have a LinkedIn account, but they're not active and they're not paying attention to it.
Well, the EDU emails were very valuable for me back when I was in school because they don't really get marked as spam, and you're also, when people see that, you are perceived as, I think, less of a threat than when you're sending from like a business domain or even like a Gmail domain, because people are so used to getting cold out emails from sales folks and things of that nature. But when you receive it from a student with a .edu email, first of all, I was able to bypass any potential like spam filters. So I would always get into everybody's inbox. And then I would play the college card pretty hard around, I'm just a college kid who's looking to, be helped out versus me trying to sell something or trying to, have some alternative motive.
I agree. I think it's really important for us to kind of present like the cycle. So I always tell my students that are graduating now, eventually you're going to be in a position where students are approaching you. So it's definitely a cycle of I've been helped, so I give back. And the Fuqua culture is that we're a team. So the more we capitalize on like we're part of this team, and you're in a position now where you can give back later. I think that makes a difference for some people to perceive it that way.
Well, from the employer side too, it's awesome to be able to have a pipeline of candidates that come through a trusted source that you don't really have to vet. And, I get outreach all the time from USC students for internships at one of my businesses. And at the very least, we talk to all of them because, we also need talent. I think that's something that's forgotten about a lot is that, it's pretty difficult to find talent if you're a company. Just as difficult as it is to find a job, it's also pretty difficult if you're a business to find, the right person for the right role. And so there's a lot of fragmentation in that market right now, but ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to taking that extra mile, I think, and trying to stand out a bit.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it can be a great win-win situation. We have had alumni approach us with opportunities, and that has made a huge difference because they're already starting out with a great advantage. When my students continue to just do cold outreach applications on LinkedIn or on Indeed, even the company website, they're always surprised when they don't get a response, and I'm not surprised at all because they're competing against hundreds of people. But some of them are not comfortable with networking. And I think that's where I can make a difference is helping them understand that this is a process that is expected and it's not something they should be afraid of. They just need to not worry about rejection and just understand lots of people are going to say no, but there will be yeses and there will be people that genuinely want to help them.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I never really did in college, and fortunately, I didn't really have to network because I just ended up starting my own business. But uh, I would go to some of those. I forget what they were called, but some of the businesses would come in and like host informational sessions or like happy hours or things like that. And I could never really like get into it in the way that I think I should have, especially if I was going to go that route of trying to find a job. So much of it was network based. Most of my friends that I know, they ended up working, through some sort of connection, whether it was family or friend related, or if it was made by them during school or in some sort of outreach capacity. But I think that's sort of what we're trying to solve a little bit on our side with software is I don't think that should be the case as much as it is today, because then you end up, and there's certain industries where I think it's worse than others. It's sort of a very defined pool of candidates that are going to end up getting placed because it comes down more to network than necessarily qualifications, which I don't fault the employer because if you're getting 5,000 applicants for a job, how are you supposed to sort through that and actually figure out who's qualified, who's not?
Right, right. And there's a lot of comfort, as you said, in receiving applicants that are already known quantity. But you're right, you don't get as much diversity because you're getting the same people that you already have, right? You're getting the friends and alumni of people that are already working there. So there are limitations to the referral
Yeah.
process.
Yeah. What one question I had is what's the difference between like the placement of undergrads and then master students? Because you've worked in both capacities now. How does that differ?
How does it differ? That's a very good question. So there's really not a ton of difference in at least in the places that I've worked. On-campus recruiting can be a great place for both. Um, our students are kind of on the in between. Our students are you have a little experience, but not MBA level experience. So we face different kinds of challenges. But for both undergraduate and MBA students, it's I haven't seen much difference. Other people may differ on that, but that hasn't been a huge difference. The on-campus recruiting is very similar, standing out is very similar, and the networking process is very similar. And those things don't change much over time.
What part of your role involves working with the other side, like the employers as well? Or is it primarily focused on working with the students themselves?
Well, we have the MBA program at Fuqua. Employers are coming directly to campus to recruit. So there's definitely we have a whole employment engagement team for the MBA program that are working directly with the employers. So there's that connection strongly in the MBA program. For my program, because we're kind of in no man's land between undergraduate and graduate, I do a lot of the outreach and try to find those employers that have a need that our students can fit. And I really focus a lot on alumni. So, in a way, I'm doing the same thing that I advocate for my students. I am networking, I'm reaching out to alumni, I'm reaching out to companies where alumni work, and trying really hard to build relationships. So, because that's really important, helping those employers create a pipeline, and I'm able to kind of give them a small and select group of students that may meet their needs. So for me, it's a little bit different from some of the other programs like the MBA program, but I'm practicing what I preach and able to give students encouragement because a lot of the outreach goes nowhere and there's no response. But eventually you get a thick skin and you're like, well, not everybody wants us. So we're just going to keep going and persevere and see where it leads.
Yeah, that makes sense. What when it comes to internships versus jobs, um, what are some of the differences there? Because like we work with a variety of students who are looking for both. And so is there a certain approach for internships versus a full-time position? Obviously there's a difference in where the student is at in their, career with the university, but what are some of the other
Right.
things that play into that?
So, what I have observed working at Duke is that employers love to have a great internship pipeline. So, they start approaching students in sophomore year. So, it happens very early, and they do kind of early internships leading to more full internships that hopefully will convert to a position. That is the employer's ideal situation is they start early and they move forward and those are their permanent hires. So that's definitely what we see at the undergraduate level. At the MBA level, since it's a 2 year program, the internship between their first and their second years is the key thing for them to have a full time job afterward. A lot of those summer internships will lead to a full time hire if it goes well. So, getting for students, getting into that pipeline as an undergraduate can be a really valuable experience because that's what the companies want to focus on. So, at an MBA level, that's the same thing too. You want your internship there to be a pipeline into your probably your final employer if you like it, right? And that's the question. Do you like it? And that's good because the internship tests it out, right? If one place is not good for you, you can try something else the next summer and just see where that goes. So the full-time employment after graduation, hopefully the students have had enough internship experiences to make a better choice for themselves. So there's a danger in not doing internships because you're less appealing to an employer, but you also don't know as much what you're looking for, what you like and what you don't like. So I always encourage students to do as many, whatever internships they can. I think that's really critical.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, like on the employer side, those interns would be able to just continue on with you because they already are familiar with everything and with the process. Um,
Yep, they're a known quantity. They know what they can do, and that is their preferred hire, and that it just makes sense.
yeah. One sort of last, I should say, broader question for you. What do you think are the biggest gaps or opportunities in the process right now? It could be technology related. It could be, not anything that you've seen that you're like, wow, I can't believe that, it's done this way still.
Well, I think the major frustration is just the difficulty in a student making that contact with the company because the way the recruitment process is structured right now, it's like a big black hole. That's how I describe it. You're trying to make that connection, but if you're just doing the online application, it's just such a tiny percentage that works out that way. So really getting students to understand that is to me that's the first really big hurdle because they want to believe, and this is part of being at a nice renowned university. They want to believe that because they're at you're a good student in a good place that the doors are just going to open. They're just going to open sesame. And in some economies that might work, right? And that's the difference. In this economy right now, you are not the hunted, you are the hunter. You have to be the one to reach out there. So I think for students, the main gap is understanding that the traditional way that they think of a job search is not going to work. Understanding that the networking process is where to put the energy And they hate that. Brandon, they hate that. They do not want to, they do not want to put the time and the effort into the networking. And it just feels very awkward for some of them. So that's a practice skill, and that's one of the things that I think we in career services can really help them, practice that, learn that skill, because ultimately, even past the job search, being able to network is one of the most important career skills that you have, because getting mentors, getting people to be your cheerleaders and move into new positions, it's really all based on those soft skills, that ability to connect with people and to form relationships, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think maybe part of it has to do with the fact that when you apply to college, networking, at least from what I remember, wasn't really a part of that process. It very much so was a formalized structure. If you have your grades, if you have your ACT or SAT, whatever, and then you get placed. And there wasn't this whole like, oh, I need to go, chat with a bunch of the students at the university, or I need to go
Yep.
network with the admissions officers or things like that. And maybe there's some or sort of holdover from that into, oh, now I'm entering the workforce. Why is it not similar?
Yes, I think that is a huge frustration for a lot of our students, because they're used to their output in terms of studying, in terms of the things they're doing, getting that equals the result, the A or whatever. But with the job search, you don't necessarily see that this work is going to lead to this outcome. There's no guarantee, and that's very frustrating for them. You could, even if they're a great candidate, if they don't make the connection with the employer, it's just not gonna work so well for them. And they see their classmates who may not be the best students, who may not be the most qualified or have the most experience, but they can make those connections, and they get better opportunities. So that's super frustrating for our students.
I think in a lot of professions, though, the interpersonal skills, especially with the rise of things like, Chat GPT and some of these other solutions, the interpersonal skills are becoming more and more important, um, and can differentiate you, even if you don't have, the best GPA in school. I mean, I can tell you from my end, unless you come in with like a 2.5 or something as in with your application, I don't really care what the GPA is. And I'm sure it's obviously different if you're going like a more corporate route than necessarily, SMB startups that are under 100 employees. But um, for me, it's much more about the interpersonal things than it is, how, because, even myself, it's not like I had a 4.0 when I went to college. So how could I expect that, the people that we're bringing in are going to have that either?
And it doesn't necessarily equate to success. So we see that just because you have a good grade point average does not mean that you have, like you said, the social skills, the drive, the grit, all those intangibles that doesn't, you need to have those things in order to be successful. And like you said, ChatGPT, that's not going to teach you those things. And I think, it's job security for me in career services. There always needs to be someone that they can talk to, that they can practice with, that can help them evaluate where their shortcomings are, because a lot of them, even small talk, they're still not super comfortable, many of them. So having that interpersonal connection, and chat gpt also can't encourage you like a person can. So I think I still feel like I have some job security, so that's what I'm
Definitely.
hoping anyway.
Once, the AI starts going to like a human form, that's when I think we all are going to be in some trouble. But
Yeah, that's a little scary. That's a little scary.
hopefully that's further away than we might expect.
Well, there's always going to be room for, I think there's always going to be room for people, because, I don't know if AI can have the same warmth and the same relationship. Well, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. You could, fake it. I guess they could they could fake it.
I listened to a podcast yesterday, which was pretty alarming. Around there's tools where these laboratories can can see what the AI is thinking. So not the actual output that it's showing on screen, but what it is thinking. And there are multiple occasions where it is thinking through how it's going to trick the person via its output to get to the end goal that it has programmed into it. And so like it's crazy. There's a
Brandon,
lot of things happening
you're
there.
scaring me right now. What is ChatGPT's end goal?
I
I mean,
don't know.
is this gonna be another way to sell to us? I have a feeling it's gonna go in that direction.
Probably. I don't know if you've experienced this yet, but I've called into some, like maybe like to a doctor's office or to an airline, and the entire call is handled by AI up until a certain point, and you won't even really know that it's AI. I mean, you're like having a conversation with it in a way that you could a human being. There's even a company out there that will call collections companies for you and negotiate your collection down, and it'll like you listen to the recordings and its voice will change, it'll get irritated, it'll it's very good at persuasion as well too, because it's literally programmed to be able to do that. It's just it's wild. We'll see what happens.
That is very interesting. A little scary, but interesting.
Yeah, with any of these things, I think there's opportunity in it, especially for the students that are willing to just jump in and leverage. I think just younger people typically are better at adopting technology. I mean, I even look at TikTok and it's like a foreign, entity to me. But when I meet people who are like 18, it's so easy for them. So I think that's what you should lean into, is all the new and emerging stuff, especially when you're still in school.
One of my feelings about this is me in as my role in career services, I feel like I need to also educate students about appropriate uses of ChatGPT. I mean, they're going to do their own thing either way, but using it as a tool that is effective, being generic in ChatGPT and getting a generic cover letter, resume, whatever, based on what you're doing it's not effective. It's not any different than just copying a template, right? So there are ways to use ChatGPT that are going to benefit them, and there are ways that companies are going to be like, oh, this is clearly AI. This is not written by a human, and therefore, that's not what I'm looking for. It's the student being able to tell the stories, their personal stories that are actually individual and interesting, right? Because the story is more interesting than just a generic output from ChatGPT.
And as companies go back to hybrid or even full time in office environments, you're eventually going to have to do that in person, that face to face, and that's where you won't be able to hide behind ChatGPT. So
Nope. I think it's a great tool and I love using it. I have so much fun with it, but it's not a replacement, right? And we still need to know how to write.
yes.
I think students need to remember that. You need to think critically and be able to write, because ChatGPT cannot do everything for you, despite what you may think.
That would be nice though. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we hop off, can you let people know where they can find you or the university online?
Sure. You know what? They can find me on LinkedIn. They can find me at Amanda P Chamberlain. That is my LinkedIn profile. I am very open to connecting with people on LinkedIn, so they're very welcome to meet me there. For the MMS program, honestly, they can Google MMS at Fuqua. I don't, off the top of my head, know what the website is, but it is a great program, and I highly recommend it. It's a great, fast way to further your education and make yourself more marketable. But I'm sorry, Brandon, I was not prepared for that question.
No, we can drop it in the show notes as well too for people
Perfect.
who want to connect. Well, again, thank you for coming on. For everybody that's listening, this is Brandon Amoroso. You can find us at scaleless.ai and apexearlycareers.com, and we will see you next time.